Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So let's jump in and see what happened around here today. This thing looks like it's got a cocoon in it here. So our paint and body guy did the floor on here recently. Just this one section. Those of you that follow the channel will know that we had to move the seat mounting here because apparently these floors came with the seat mounting in the wrong place. The keyhole brackets and everything were over here, and they didn't line up with the seat, like not at all. So we had to move them over there, kind of modify the floor, and then touch up the paint here. So our painter came and did this. Again, luckily the bus came with a bunch of spare paint, so it's always good to have for touch up and stuff like this. But yeah, looks good. And again, this is all covered in a cargo mat anyway, but of course, we like things to look good even that you don't see, so that's how we roll. Anyway, so yeah, he kind of created a cocoon here and painted it inside there so we didn't get overspray all over everything else and all the other cars in the shop and stuff like that. So kind of painted that little area inside this little cocoon that he made, and there you go. So he did that, and then Rafa pretty much hooked up the ebrake cables, and the only thing was he had to modify the push bar on the two rear brakes. So for the ebrake, there's the lever that hooks up to one shoe, and then there's the bar or plate that goes between the two shoes horizontally, that when the lever actuates the one shoe, that push rod pushes on the other one too, so that both brake shoes kind of spread out and create the e-brake action. Anyway, we're not sure why, but those push bars were a little bit short where they contact the I don't know what you call it, the lever, I guess, the e-brake lever in there. So Rafa pretty much took those and welded onto the area that contacts that lever and extended them a little bit, ground them down, got them to work right. So who knows? Those push bars might have been off some other year brakes, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, we fixed it. We made them work flawlessly. So we did that, excuse me, and then went ahead and installed the e-brake cables, adjusted those, installed them all the way up to the front e-brake lever, which, by the way, the mechanism inside there, so there's like a long rod that runs through the lever with the button on the end, and there's a spring in there. That was pretty much all frozen down inside there. So Rafa pretty much pulled it all apart and got that all working well. And yeah, so e-brakes on this are done now, and the back wheels are on for real now, torqued down with cotter pins and all. Before, they were just kind of loosely put on there so that we could make the scene into a roller, but now that's sort of finalized. We still do have to bleed the brakes on here, I think is the last thing on the brakes themselves. I did get news from the owner today, so thank you to him if he happens to be watching. He did ship off the motor, so it was like a long block and a bunch of parts and stuff like that for us to build him a motor for this bus and work our magic and make it look beautiful. So that's on its way. I think he said it'd probably be here Thursday or something, so that'll be a good and fun little project, building a motor for this one. So I think that is pretty much what happened on this one today. Oh, no, actually, Rafa also went ahead and filled the transmission with transmission oil. So one more thing on the checklist checked off there. So there you go. So for me, I started the day off on this guy. So it's kind of a little hard here with these two red cars, 64 and 67. So on the 67, I went ahead and installed the door panels. So got those all prepared and stuff, put the handles on them, excuse me, and all the little clips around them, and got those all prepared and stuff. It's actually more time consuming than you might think putting door panels on, but yeah, got those done, and then put on the escutcheons, which is the name for this chrome thing that goes around here. I still have to order the little finger guards that go in here, a little black plastic piece. But these are all on and working. The little finger guards just kind of pop in there. Went ahead and put on his original, very nice window winders here. So those are all in and oriented correctly and all that good stuff. So yeah, door panels in this thing are all in. I think in the morning we're probably going to pop the windshield and the rear window in this. So this car is really going to start to look like a done car here. We need to finish this motor up so we can put a motor in this thing. Although before that, I need to build my test stand so I can test the motor out of the car before we put the motor in the car. The regulars around the channel will know what I'm talking about when I say that using cars as test stands, so to speak, has not always gone well for various reasons. But yeah, the motor's over there. It's mostly done. Just need to put the carburetor on, fuel pump, some other odds and ends, and then again run it on a test stand. Even do cam brake in. I don't remember if that one has a new cam or not, but all that stuff, leak, check for leaks, all that good stuff before we put it in the car. So I need to seriously get on that. So I think that was it for the 67 today. And then I turned my attention to the super cool 64 sunroof today, and went ahead and built his back brakes, which look really nice. I love the way Volkswagen brakes look when everything's all nice and clean and coated and stuff like that. So much better than before. If any of you saw the videos of this when it came apart, the brakes were pretty horrific and wore out and everything was leaking all over the place. Now they look pretty new. So yeah, I went ahead and built those. They're all connected now, and likewise connected the axles to the spring plates. So again, the main reason for tearing the back of this car apart was to put an adjustable spring plate so we can lower it and have some adjustment there. But as I started taking the back of the car apart, of course, found that these things the rear brakes were like leaking all over the place. One of the axles was leaking. It was just a mess. So we did the right thing and fixed all that. So anyway, this is all back together now. I just got the drums back very late this afternoon from the machine shop and cleaned them and put a quick coat of paint on those. So those can go on probably tomorrow. And I ordered a set of drum skins from my friends at Fiber Steel. Those of you that don't know what those are, you'll hopefully see them tomorrow or the next day. Those guys are fairly local. They're in Azusa, so not too far from here. So hopefully I'll get those tomorrow. Anyway, you'll see what drum skins are if you don't know, or you can look them up. So yeah, the back of this thing is pretty much together now. Again, save for putting on the drums and adjusting the brakes, and then it's going to be time to bleed the brakes. So rear shocks are on, all that good stuff. The other thing that I did today was I went ahead and connected the two front brake hoses. Those weren't on, were not installed previously, so those are on now. Went and double checked, tightened up all the brake lines and hoses and stuff like that. So this brake system, other than putting the drums on the back and adjusting the back brakes, this brake system should be ready to add fluid to now and bleed. So fingers crossed that goes well. But usually when we do something like this, leave the gas tank out until we bleed the brakes, because it's much easier to add fluid to these reservoirs that sit on the cylinder, and then also it's much easier to detect and fix leaks when everything's open like this. So the gas tank will be one of the last things to go back in. So I did find one more issue with the lovely what are these guys called? Air cooled, or another issue with their front beam, and that is that happens. So I don't know, I guess you can probably see what I'm talking about there. At full lock with the suspension sitting in a height, so I jacked the suspension up because I was pretty sure that was going to hit, that the tie rod was going to hit the shock. So that's why I've got that jack underneath the suspension on this side. So that is at about a pretty normal ride height that you would have on a lowered car. And lo and behold, when you're at full lock for a, let's see, what are we turning? For a right-hand turn, the tie rod rams right into the shock. So that's not cool. I mean, again, you would only have the steering wheel turned at full lock like that. Maybe if you're like in a parking lot or parking the car, you wouldn't turn it that much driving the car on the road. Again, just, well, maybe if you were doing like a U-turn or something, but you know, only going really slow. But anyway, yeah, so there you go. More interesting design elements here from these guys. Shock hitting tie rod, again, only at extreme turning angle, but come on, guys. Pay attention when you design stuff and don't let shit like that happen. So again, it's not the end of the world, but it's just one of those things like, did you check this when you designed it? Or did you not? Anyway, I will leave that at that and let the viewer decide if they think that's problematic or not. So the barn door is still outside. Our dude is still polishing it, and it is looking amazing. Just keep teasing you guys. That thing will probably be back in the shop hopefully later this week. It's taking a little bit longer than I thought, but it is looking incredible. So stay tuned for the barn door to come back in the shop in the next maybe day or two. And yeah, and then you'll see all the work that we've been doing with it here for the last, I don't know, few weeks or month or however long it's been in our little body shop building over there. So I guess that is it for today, everyone. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.